Okay, yeah, I think I'm recording now. Bog. Yeah, so welcome to my commentary slash marathon submission video for Balan Wonderworld. The run that you're about to watch is the world record at the time of the recording, of course, which also happens to be a no reset run that I was recording to do a marathon submission with. Um, so as I just get this to the end, I just don't like media player, so I don't want to skip ahead because it's probably going to miss the start. Yeah, there's the fail. Haha, nice. We'll go new game. Yeah, so time starts when you select a character like Emma Cole there. I'm just going to go back in time a little bit to like here. Perfect. Yeah, so time starts when you pick a character. For this I pick Emma Cole. It's just personal preference. There's no difference in gameplay between Emma Cole and Leo Craig other than their voices and their appearance. I'm playing on the PC version, mainly because we have a load remover for the PC version, which is just a bit easier to time than other versions of the game. PS5 is technically the fastest when you time without loads. Also with loads, I should say. But it is probably like the least accessible version of the game just because of how hard it is to get a PS5. Is it easier to get them now? I actually don't know. But either way. Yeah, so time starts when we pick Emma Cole, as stated. So let's just get straight into this. So this is going to immediately open up to two cutscenes. We can skip these cutscenes by holding the jump button, or which happens to be every button in the game. Fun fact. Yeah, so now we're in Isle of Thames. This is our hub world. It acts like a chow garden as well, but we won't be using it for that purpose, literally just to get from level to level. We have a choice here of entering two levels, 1-1 or 1-2. We're going to go to 1-1 as this will have some benefits that we will see shortly. And you may notice in a moment that I don't skip the cutscenes right away. And the reason why I do that is just because this is the fastest time where I can actually skip cutscenes. They make you watch a little bit of the cutscene first before you can actually skip it. So I'm using like music cues and stuff like that to work out when to skip the cutscene as early as possible. Also, these first jumps sort of push you in weird directions. It's weird. But the first objective is to grab a costume, which will change one of our jump actions to do something else. So for the case of Tornado Wolf here, our jump is now this spin jump that destroys brittle blocks like so. And now we're going to grab our first Balan statue. And then by jumping off this post here, it takes me like a moment to get it once. Yeah, we can skip a cutscene here. And then we can grab another Balan statue right away. And then I head this way. And I take a very wide line here. And the reason why I do this is because I can trigger that cutscene I tried to skip already. If I go too close to the pumpkin already. And then you can you can just jump off the pumpkin, which has collision for some reason, to get onto that third statue. And that's unintended as well. So here we have Lance. He's the antagonist of the game, but we actually won't be seeing him that much. Because any time that he really pops up, we can usually skip it. This is just one of the cases where we can't. Then I'm heading towards this tire in the distance here, as we could jump off that to make a platform cycle here, and to get our fourth statue very quickly. I just about make the cycle there. And, yeah. And I grab this key. The keys are required to actually unlock the costumes. And now we have Jumping Jack, which is essentially the Yoshi flutter that everyone knows and loves, but worse. And by worse, I mean it's just not as effective. It does the job well in this game, but like if this was any other platformer, it would be terrible. But yeah, nice. That was 1-1. And I haven't actually mentioned what the statues do at the moment. So the statues are basically a collectible item in the game that lock progression at certain points of the run. For example, if I want to unlock the worlds after World 1, I need to have 8 statues. So right now I have 4 from the first level. And now we're going into 1-2. And yes, so. And Jumping Jack was the reason why we went to 1-1 first. Because with 1-2 we can do a giant skip with the Jumping Jack costume. Also, yeah, I'm playing on 30 FPS here. This is because it actually gives you a very, very small increase to your jump height, which is extremely useful for the early game. As soon as the early game is over, I do switch back to 60 FPS out of personal preference. It also 30 FPS also nerfs one of the strongest costumes in the game, So it's like the moment, you know, you don't need it anymore, you turn it off. And that's the skip right there. It's one of the hardest jumps in the game when you're playing at 60 FPS. It's quite free though when you play at 30. You'll like get it every time. But now that I've completed the 2 levels of this world, we'll be now going to the boss of the world, which takes you there automatically. I really enjoy the boss fights in this game because there's lots of quick ways you can get hits in on the bosses. Like for example, with this first hit here, we can just jump into him before he even starts his attack, and that counts as a hit there. We're then going to pick up a costume known as the Pounding Pig. This will let us ground pound, which is helpful for the boss's attack here. That's the second hit very quickly. And then if we're quick here, we can do a short hop with the Tornado Wolf and then switch to Pounding Pig, which I get there. Nice. And that's a nice little optimization that I did there. Because switching costumes loses you around 2 seconds every time that you do it. It's not good at all, so you want to try and minimize the amount of costume switches that you do throughout the run. We want to be starting 3-2 with Pounding Pig anyway, and not Tornado Wolf. So doing that switch there before the cutscene starts mitigates most of the time lost from that costume switch. So yeah, as mentioned, the next world that we're going to is 3-2. Because we've got 8 statues, we now have access to World 2 and 3. But we're going to go to 3-2 first. This is because we need a costume from 3-2, which will help us out in a few levels in the early game. So I haven't mentioned this yet, but you know how some games have a thing called Coyote Time? Where basically you have a few frames after walking off a ledge to jump. In Balan Wonderworld, Coyote Time is infinite. So anytime you walk off a ledge, you can press the jump button whenever you like, and you'll get your jump out. So this is a very useful movement tool for this run. Very, very useful. And I pick up another Balan statue there. And then we pick up this costume here known as the Dusk Butterfly. The Dusk Butterfly has a very slow, floaty jump, but you can do a bunch of them at nighttime. So like, here he switches turns the level to nighttime. And then I can just basically do a bunch of little floaty jumps there. And I can use it across this giant gap and make this lovely platform cycle here. That platform cycle moves slower at 30 FPS as well, so it's actually possible to make a 30 FPS at 60, it's a lot tighter. Then here with Jumping Jack, we're going to do a Coyote jump off the ledge into a delayed flutter to get onto there. Basically a delayed flutter is a tech with the Jumping Jack that it's not really important anymore because we're not going to do it anymore in the run. But basically if you delay your flutter, you just go a bit faster and than you do normally. You usually lose speed for fluttering with Jumping Jack, but you gain speed if you delay it. But now we're going to be going into 2-2. And yeah, I just want to mention how, yeah, during the daytime, the Dusk Butterfly is terrible. And you'll see it as I try and navigate the beginning of 2-2, because we are starting the level with Dusk Butterfly, and it just seems more convenient just to use the costume and not switch. So you'll see here that, like, I'm going to cross this gap here, and I get a second jump out there, but it's very, very dismal. Like, the difference is tiny. Like, that little flap of the wings is an additional jump from the costume. So this is Dynamic Dolphin. This is a costume that allows us to swim, and we need to be able to swim to beat the level. And yeah, as I hit the back of this switch here, so that I can get immediately into this water as it comes up, and start swimming. But here's an important thing about Dusk Butterfly. At 30 FPS, each one of those little tiny pedophilic jumps is boosted by the 30 FPS. So I can actually get up here, which is... You shouldn't be able to do this, by the way. The only way the game intends you to get up here is by getting a costume from the final world in the game. So basically, this costume I've just unlocked, the Double Jumper, is basically almost a post-game costume. It's very, very strong. Easily the second best costume in the entire run. And as the name suggests, it just lets you double jump. So here I'm just jumping over everything. And yeah, this is basically it's going to carry us for most of the run here. It's extremely versatile. It's slightly better than Jumping Jack for crossing gaps. And it gets a lot more height. So you can just, like, keep everything. That jump I did off the dolphin statue back there, I actually skipped a mini-boss, by the way. It might not look like it, but yeah, I skipped a mini-boss. In fact, there are 12 mini-bosses in this game, 10 of which we skip. Because all the arenas are really easy to exploit. And here I have to switch to double jumper before I go onto the water with dynamic dolphin. Because if you fall into the water with dynamic dolphin, you immediately start swimming. If you do have any other costume, you stand on top of it. It's a weird factor that comes in there. I switched into double jump at the end of the level here because the next level is based off a cycle. And I want to be starting the level with double jumper. So it made more sense to switch now so that I have more time to make the cycle in the next level. So 3-1 actually houses the scariest statue in the entire run here. Yeah, so you'll see in a moment, and you'll probably see why it's scary. But I'll explain as it goes along. It's not this one here. This one's fine. It's this one here. So this room is completely pitch black. And we can just about make out the statue in front of us. There are also pitfalls in this room, like on the path. So we have to know where to jump there in order to not die. And if you lose your if you die, you lose your costume. So if I was to lose double jumper here, I would be going back to 2-2 to go get it again, which will lose a lot of time. So a lot of Balan runs, you kind of have to do damageless. There's times where you can take damage to sack costumes that you don't need. But for the most part, you want to be doing this run damageless. Which is quite easy, and I'll explain why that's quite easy later into the run. But for now, yeah, it's not important. We just had to make sure to not fall in that pit. And here's the cycle that we're trying to make. And allows us to grab a quick statue there. Also, we're very limited on statues we can actually get in the early game. Because we don't have many costumes at this point. We can't just easily find a way to grab a statue that's slightly out of reach with the costumes that we have right now. So basically, the 25 statues I've got are the fastest ones you can get, and are basically really the only ones you have an option of getting without losing a bunch of time to go get additional statues. So this is free boss. This one's quite easy actually. So for the first hit, you just go jump into a pillar. I'm using dynamic dolphin here because if I am to take damage with the dynamic dolphin during this boss fight, that's fine because we no longer need dynamic dolphin. The only instance where we were actually swimming was that one level. I switched to Dusk Butterfly here. Actually, no, I switched back to the Dynamic Dolphin. And then as I hit the ball, I switched to Dusk Butterfly. Again, that's just a small optimization because I want to start the next level as Dusk Butterfly. It just helps mitigate that switch. But yeah, during boss fights, you get awarded up to 3 statues depending on how you fight the boss. So I fought the boss in 3 different styles there. Basically by hitting the pillar, by hitting him as he comes down from the retaliation phase, and by hitting the ball back into him, and that rewarded me 3 statues. And now that we have 25 statues, we've unlocked World 4, 5, and 6 to play in. So now routing becomes a lot more open. To begin with, we're going to do 4-1, because this is actually the last level that requires us to be playing at 30 FPS. Because we can do a massive trick here with 30 FPS. This is the big, probably the biggest time save that 30 FPS can do. Actually, no, you can do this on 60, but it's way easier on 30. So basically, we do this level and then we switch to 60 FPS. I'm just being careful of these enemies here, so I'm going wide. Basically, I'm going to walk off here, full, and then get into this air current, and I'm just going to mash with Dust Butterfly. And as you see, I just fly throughout the entire level. This basically, because Dust Butterfly has weird interactions with fans when he shouldn't have them at all. Basically, you just get flown upwards if you get on a long air current and just mash the jump button. So that's 4-1 out of the way. Now, 4 boss houses a very important costume, which we need to access another important costume. So we're going to do all of World 4 here. Luckily, World 4 is like the quickest world in the game. So this is fine. I'm actually not sure if it is the quickest. I definitely think it's up there. Because 4-1's very quick and 4-2 is ridiculously fast. So you see this whale in the background? That's going to head towards the end of the level and start circling around there. The objective is to jump on its head to then grab the end goal there. But as it's seated there, it starts at the beginning of the level before heading to the end. So what we can do is we grab the first statue and then just use this fan here to land on top of its head. And we're at the end of the level. It's an amazing skip, actually. And now we're going to be going into 4 boss. 4 boss used to be probably the most inconsistent, annoying boss in the entire game, but over time we discovered that with the costume that we're going to be picking up here, known as the Aero Acrobat, which is accessible during this fight, it can allow us to make very quick work of this boss. It's also worth mentioning here that when I pick up costumes in the boss fight, the cutscene when you pick up costumes doesn't play. And that's just a very useful thing about boss fights. So if there's a costume that you need and you can get it during a boss fight, it's always worth to do it there, as opposed to in the overworld. But yeah, with the first hit of the boss, when the platform comes up, we can just immediately jump off the platform and then snipe him with Aero Acrobat's homing attack. And then we're picking up Soaring Sheep, which lets us float through the air, as I just demonstrated there. That rhymed. But now I'm just going to wait out for him to become vulnerable again for an attack. So in a moment, when these fan blades come out, I'm just going to switch costume. Oh, I'm just going to take it safe. And hit him like that. And that's the second hit. These are all counting as statues, by the way. Even though they're all done very similar ways. That one counted as a different type of hit, so it luckily counted as 2 statues there. And we're going to jump into this blade here. And boom. That's 4 boss. So yeah, to unlock the next 3 levels of the run, I need 50 statues. Which is just worth mentioning now. We're going to be going to 6-2 now. Because there's a very, very important costume for the route of this section of the run. That is housed in here. And we need the Soaring Sheep to access it quickly, along with a statue. Actually, no, we don't need Soaring Sheep to access the costume. We just need the Soaring Sheep to access the statue quickly. And to do a skip at the end of the level, actually. God, I'm forgetting everything. Either way, yeah. So as you can see here, Soaring Sheep can just glide through the air and allows us to cross this massive gap to grab the statue. And then we're going to glide down here, and there's that. This is a secret dressing room. Basically, it houses a secret costume here, which is the Air Cat. Basically, we'll see what the Air Cat does here. It's also worth mentioning that these secret changing rooms also don't give you a cutscene for picking up the costume either, which is very worth doing. But yeah, Air Cat basically lets you float through the air similar to Soaring Sheep without losing any height. But the distance is much lesser than Soaring Sheep. Soaring Sheep is basically infinite until you hit the death plane. Air Cat is just for a very limited amount of time. But we can use Soaring Sheep there to like just fly over that giant gap there. You can also see me hearing like a lot of noises coming from Soaring Sheep as I'm floating. That's because I'm mashing the jump button to fly faster. You fall faster mashing, but you go much faster that it trades out to get even way more distance. Now we have 5-2. So World 5 is probably the hardest world in the run right now. Because 5-2 had some very tricky jumps, and 5-1 has a very, very tricky jump at the start. We're going to do all of World 5 here, because we want to actually do a quick hit on the World 6 boss, but we need a certain costume which we can only get from the World 5 boss to do so. And luckily we have all the costumes required to beat World 5 here, which happens to just be Double Jumper. We also used Air Cat here for a statue. This first jump is really, really difficult. And I haven't mentioned yet, but this game, it feels like you play on an ice level in every world. Like you have so little friction that you just slide around a lot of the time. So that jump onto that door is quite scary because you can quite easily like slide off the door. And now we could just use double jump as really strong vertical climbing just to get to the top of this level very quickly. It's a very vertical level. So you can see I'm just climbing up it very quickly. And basically we're at the end of the level already. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to switch to Air Cat. So then grab this statue, and then I'm going to jump back. Again, you can see me like doing mashes with Air Cat here. And the reason why I'm doing that is because Air Cat's float is, like, the amount of time that you're in the air for that isn't based on like when you start press the A button for the first time. It's how long you're holding the A button for. So by doing light spaced out taps, I can maximize my air distance there. But I will lose height from mashing, so I have to like balance between holding, mashing, and like the speed that I mash, like maximize the distance and make some jumps. Okay, 5-1 is a level that we're going to be doing exclusively with double jumper. And to begin with, we're going to do the newest skip in the run. And it's probably one of the scariest because it's like such a tight jump. But luckily I had 100% success rate with landing the trick-in run so far, which is lovely. So basically I'm going to jump on this box right here. And I'm going to angle my camera slightly and jump off of this angle and land on this very thin tree branch. And then I skip like the first part of the level. So here's like the first big chunk of the run. I just mess up this jump here for a bit. It shouldn't take me that long to mess up. And then I try and jump over this. I miss and I fall down. That's fine. But yeah, it's not good. It's not good. What can I say? I lost me about 10 seconds to be honest, but it's not bad. Either way, we've got like 2 very fast statue jump grabs here, and then we can jump on this lantern to skip having to do the puzzle around this area to get to this part. Saves a nice little chunk of time. And then we can grab this statue here, and now we can skip the mini bosses to our left there by jumping off this iron box, jumping onto this thing here, and then jumping up here for a statue grab. And also behind this building is the end of the level. So yeah, you can see how double jumper just breaks a lot of this game. Just being able to double jump over a lot of mini boss arenas. Also, that skip I did in 6-2, going through the mirror, that also skipped a mini boss. So as you can see, like a lot of these mini bosses are just really easily skippable. 5 boss has a very nice quick kill to it, which I'll show up here. So basically, the egg's going to turn blue in a minute, and from there he's vulnerable. So with double jumper, we can just jump up and hit it immediately. Otherwise, we'd be waiting around a while for him to attack us before we can actually hit the boss. That saves a nice chunk of time doing that. About 14 seconds, I believe. Maybe actually, I think it was closer to 17 seconds. But yeah, so Guardian Bird is the costume picked up here. It basically shoots tornadoes, and tornadoes can shoot back other tornadoes at the boss. And then we're going to repeat the first hit again when the egg turns blue, like so. And we're going to kill it like so. But yeah, sorry if I skip over parts of the commentary. I'm sort of noticing this now, that Balan is a very, very... for an hour-long run, there's a lot that's going on. So it's very hard to stop and talk about something for ages, because I could be missing something else to talk about. I believe the run sort of slows down towards the end, but the beginning of the run is crazy. Like, we've done so much already, and we're only 20 minutes into the run. So now we're going to 6-1, because we've got all the costumes that we need to beat 6-1 and 6 boss. As I mentioned already, we needed Guardian Bird for a quick hit with the boss. So we've got that. We need Air Cat to do a skip here. So you see this door that's right there? You need a costume known as the Gear Prince to skip it. Or to open it, I should say. But someone called Silent M in our community basically just found a skip for it very recently, where you can get underneath the clock tower like so, with the double jumper, cross the gap with Air Cat, then double jump up here to get behind the door, and clip back in bounds, to then skip the door. It's a very nice little skip actually, it's one of my favourites in the run, when I actually land it. Which is most of the time. And then this little section is based off a cycle, because there's going to be something that's going to like... There's a statue on top of that cog at the end. Is it a cog? Yeah. Basically, I wait for it to lower, and then double jump up to the statue. I can't... It's just out of reach of double jumper there, so you have to wait for it to start lowering before you can actually reach it. We then head up the stairs here. And now we're going to go to the second tower, which again with double jumper is very easy to skip. We can literally just jump up these platforms like so, and look, there's the end of it already. And then, so ideally I wanted to go through, like the mirror switches between two platforms, and I wanted the other platform, but it's fine. Also, there's another section here with the gear prints where we're meant to like move these platforms to get to the end, but double jumper, yeah, he could just jump up. And then we're switching to Guardian Bird here, because the quick hit for the 6 boss is a very tight window at the start of the fight. So switching to Guardian Bird now allows us to get the quick hit, basically guaranteed. In fact, I think it's impossible if you don't switch to Guardian Bird before the fight starts. So the quick hit, basically he's going to be standing on top of this traffic light at the start of the fight. And what we need to do is just need to hit him off that. So when the light goes yellow, I'm going to jump and immediately shoot out a tornado, and that just hits him off there, gets a quick hit, like so. So if the routing for Balan Wonderworld seems complicated, it all has its reasons behind it. Like we did in this whole order just so we can get Guardian Bird, Double Jumper, and Air Cat to this level. And then here for the final hit. I never explained what this costume here does. So this is the Chrono Rabbit. It's not a very important costume to be honest, but it basically makes you immune to freezing time, which the boss does during the second phase there. Basically, by grabbing the costume it's slightly faster than not grabbing it. Because otherwise you have to mash before you can hit the boss. Brilliant. So now we've unlocked the next three worlds of the run. World 8 actually houses the most broken costume in the run. Which is known as the Frost Fairy. I'll explain what Frost Fairy does in just a moment. We've got to get to it first of all, which involves some movement before we can do that. So we're going to switch to double jumper to begin with, because everyone knows the double jumper is broken. And then we're going to switch to Air Cat, because Air Cat's hovering helps us get to this costume a little bit faster. We're going to fall down, grab the statue here. This route that we're doing for this level is very new as well. This is like, I think this was the first run to debut it actually. And this run was also the first one to debut that skipping 5-1 that I did as well. But then we've got to do some very spaced out mashes here to cross this gap. We're going to get rid of Chrono Rabbit here for the Frost Fairy. Frost Fairy is basically Air Cat, but better. And by better I mean the hover that Air Cat does, Frost Fairy gains height on it. So as you'll see here, I'm like basically making out my own little staircase. It's like the like what my friend called it was basically the Roblox Obby reward costume. Which is a nice obscure reference, but I appreciate it. But yeah, we're going to then basically skip this mini boss by jumping off the platform here and getting on top of this door. Basically, Frost Fairy is the best for just crossing gaps now. And navigating levels. But if you need to like climb up stuff, Double Jumper is basically the costume you're going to switch to. Yeah, Frost Fairy is actually a really, really strong costume. Now we're going to go to 7-2. And we're going to go to the left to begin with on this level, because there's a statue to our left. Basically, this whole level involves us hitting switches to open a giant door. Basically, these switches are located to our left and right at the start of the level, so we're going to head this way to get to the left switches. I try and do a little tiny time save here, but I do mess it up, I believe. Like, I was trying to get on top of these boxes, but I didn't really space out my mashes too well with Frost Fairy. So the I ran out of airtime there. But yeah, it works very similar to Aircat, where the amount of times you're holding down the A button will basically determine how long you're going to be in the air for. So I want to do like light spaced out taps to get, you know, as much distance as possible. So we got rid of Aircat here for the floaty flower, which is basically Soaring Sheep. It's literally just a clone of Soaring Sheep. It's just faster to grab floaty flower here than to go and actually go get Soaring Sheep again. So we're going to fly over to this statue, and then we're going to backtrack. I have to be careful on this platform because that shockwave attack that's coming towards me can hit me on that ground platform there. For some reason, even though it's, you know, above the shockwave. That was not fun to discover during our run. But yeah, now that I've hit all the switches, the door's open now. This cutscene here is actually skippable for some reason. It's a very short cutscene, but you can skip it. And then we need Floaty Flower here because this gap that we're going to jump is very, very difficult to do with Frost Fairy, and it's slow anyway. It's one of the hardest trick jumps in the entire game, actually. But now we're going to switch to double jumper here to finish off the level. Oh, and the reason why we're doing 7-2 before 7-1 is because after 8-1, we finished with Frost Fairy, and the start of 7-2 is faster with Frost Fairy, whilst the start of 7-1 is faster with Double Jumper, which will be finished level on. Here's Donkey Skip, based on the skip in Donkey's Balan Wonderworld video, where he actually falls into a Balan bout. I mean, it was known about before Donkey did the skip, but I think I just call it Donkey Skip now because it's just funny. And now we're going to 7-1, which actually got rerouted the day after this run came out. But the route I'm still going to do here is very fast. Just a new route came out that saves like a couple seconds, and it gets an additional statue. But yeah, so here, double jump is just very strong here, because again, it's another very vertical level. So I can just jump up here. And then this jump here basically takes me almost to the end of the level already. There's just some statues around this area as well that I'm going to pick up before I do that. There's this one, I'm taking it a little bit safe here. It can be a little bit sketchy. Yeah, and then I fall down here. This is another mistake in the run. Yeah, I mean, as far as like world record runs go, this isn't perfect. Especially since I rerouted the run slightly since. But it's still a very solid run. I mean, obviously it's world record, and there is competition in this game, so. Yeah, and then we can use Frost Fairy to cross the gap. I'm also going to 7-boss. I guess we'll talk about the community there. It's a very, like, Balan Wonderworld community is very small. But we're all like a very wholesome community. We all get on well with each other. We all don't take it too seriously, and you know, we've worked really hard to like route this game out to what it is, find strategies. I've been there since day one, which is Pog. So this is a 7-boss. The strat here is that he will slam his fists down onto the arena, and then we can use Frost Fairy. He'll then expose his weak spot, and we can just blind with a Frost Fairy. I see you get a nice quick hit there. That is the intended way to fight him, but you meant to do it with Floaty Flower. It's a little bit faster to do it with Frost Fairy. Now we're going to pick up this costume called Tackling Ball, which actually doesn't allow us to jump at all, but dash around instead. We're going to use that to hit the boss, or to hit that giant chest piece and then hit the boss. And then I'm going to do I think I'm going to do a time save here, yeah. where if you dash into into the second fist, you can actually save a little bit of time. If you'll start its next phase a bit quicker. Now instead of doing the fast hit again, we're going to wait for 10 seconds. Because this wait for 10 seconds will reward us a statue. And basically we have a rule in this game that if a statue takes more than 13 seconds, it's not worth. So anything under that is a statue that's worth picking up. And as that only takes 10 seconds, it's viable. So now we're going to finish up World 8. Uh, 8-2 is a very quick level. It's basically a giant slide. And there's a very big skip at the start of the level. Which you'll see. Yeah, so basically with Frostberry you can fly down here. And the slide that I mean up with here is basically the bottom of, or like the midpoint of the final slide of the level. And there's a statue right there, so of course we're going to pick that one up. I'm avoiding these, that booster there, because you do lose speed on it. And this statue grab here can be very sketchy, so I have to be careful with it. That's fine, I get it. I haven't missed out in a long time. But I think that's also our understanding of Crossberry changing a little bit. The old method used to be to like mash really fast with the Crossberry to get as much distance, and then we realised it's all about just spacing it out. 8 boss is probably one of the less interesting bosses in the game. I actually haven't talked about this yet, but the switching of costumes actually gives you like 2 seconds of iframes every time you do it, and you can switch as much as you want. There's no limit on how much you can switch here. So I can avoid these bosses' spikes by literally just like switching costume. I've also got the Hardy Hammer here, as it's the only costume in this boss fight that will allow us to hit the boss's weak spot that's coming out. I'm going to charge an attack here that lets us do the spin, which then allows us to quickly get the hit on the boss there. It went the wrong way though, which is a shame. We're then going to pick up Abominable Snowman here. I call it Abominable, I call it that, but it's actually called Frost Giant. Well, Frost Giant basically is a projectile shooter, which allows us to hit this phase very quickly. Not only that, but it also helps us hit the boss's next attack by just shooting the falling ice stalactite. I'm going to switch to Frost Fairy here, because we'll be going to 9-1 next. And that opens up with Frost Fairy. So yeah, my current objective here is to get 80 statues. Right now, I am at 71, so I just need 9 more to get to the next lot of worlds. This is one of my favourite levels in the run, by the way. This one has so much going on. For example, we can skip the entire opening section here by getting on this wall and then flying on top of these buildings like so with Frost Fairy. And we've already skipped the first area. There's a costume here that basically makes some train tracks spawn for this section to help us get to the next area, but we can skip that by using Frost Fairy to cross these gaps. And here I'm really using like spaced up taps. Here you can grab a quick statue by jumping off these platforms. I've just had to safely get back on that platform there, so that's getting a little bit sketchy. And then we can fly into the statue here. Here I'm going to switch to double jumper to climb up this tower. Again, as I said, double jump is very, very strong for vertical climbing. Frost Fairy can make most of these jumps, but the speed in which it climbs is very slow. And I'm going to grab this statue, and we're going to do a really cool skip here. So by landing on this platform here, we can then get into this one, and then we can do some very light taps into the seam of this mountain, which then we can ride it for some reason without using any of our jumps. And then I can finish off the gap there and get to the end of the level. It's a very nice little time save. Because you can usually go through that tunnel that's behind us there to get to the end of the level with Frost Fairy, but taking the mountains a little bit faster, and it looks really cool. Now we're going to do 9-2. This level got rerouted as well recently, so it's a lot quicker now. But the route that I still do here, again, is very quick. We basically just removed 2 statues that basically allows this level to become a very straight shot. Also found a couple strategies that make it a little bit easier as well. Even though it's quite easy as it is. Basically, I'm going to jump onto this railing with Frost Fairy. Or with double jump and then switch to Frost Fairy and cross this gap here. To avoid going into the house to grab this statue. We're then going to enter the house and grab another statue that's just here. But yeah, when I talk about this game being rerouted, it's very minor. As well, I should mention, it's not going to be like a 5-minute time save. It could be like 10 seconds difference. But because the game's so easy to optimize, it's worth taking any reroute and using it. And yeah, basically by flying out of that window back there, we basically skip the end of the level. So yeah, 9-2 is a very quick level as well. And now we're going to go to 9 boss. I should also mention that flying out that window to skip another mini boss. Which is funny because we skipped almost all the mini bosses so far. The 9 boss is probably the hardest boss in the game. It's extremely punishing if you don't know how to play it properly. Which luckily I've had enough experience with it to understand the workings of this boss. It's no longer really a problem. But yeah. Basically, I've got to dodge these attacks here. But yeah, as I was saying, it's really easy to not take damage in this game because you can just constantly switch costumes for safety. So if you're worried about getting hit, just stop switching costumes and you won't get hit. And you can basically get unlimited iframes. So this boss strat here goes wrong for me. I do lose my pounding robot here trying to do a fast strat for the second hit. Basically, I was trying to hit this dirty button as soon as it became exposed, which I missed. Which is fine. This gets very sketchy here. Because now I'm trying to, mad dash hit it with Frost Fairy, and I just about get it. And then for the second phase, I'm just damage boosting here. For safety on this next hit, so I can hit this missile. I switch to double jumper. And beat the boss. And now we've unlocked the final 3 worlds of the game. I should really mention now that the objective to, actually beat Balan Wonderworld is to get 110 statues and beat every boss in the game. So we only need 30 more statues and we only need to do a few more bosses. I believe we just need to do 4 at this point. 10 one's a very cool level conceptually. It's based off that painting with all the stairs. And flipping the levels orientation to unlock new pathways. So yeah, I can do a little shortcut by jumping off that chandelier. There's a statue right there for us to grab. And we're going to pick up this costume here, the Inky Blaster. The Inky Blaster is probably one of the S tier costumes alongside
Double Jumper, and Frost Fairy. So our lineup right now is really strong. So there's another statue right behind us there, as you can see. World 10 has some really fast statue grabs, especially 10-1. We grab all 6 in this level. I do fall down here by mistake, which is a shame. But luckily it's just a quick climb up these stairs to get back up. But yeah, what makes Inky Blaster so strong is, well, for starters, we actually needed to beat this level because it actually unlocks doors by hitting these paintings with some paint. But yeah, as I'm saying, like, these statues are really cool. But also, it's really strong for defeating enemies in later levels. Like, it's the best costume in the game for fighting enemies. And you might have noticed I missed a statue there, but don't worry about it, we'll grab it in a bit. Now we're going to do a skip here with Double Jumper. This saves a small amount of time, but it's very cool. Basically, by jumping off this little platform here, we can get up to this paint tube if we don't miss it. There we go. And then we can get up here. This gives a nice portion of this section. Yeah, this 10-1 was a bit bad. Sometimes, like, these paintings can be weird to hit. But yeah, you can see I'm also mitigating any costume switches by switching into these cutscenes. So that statue that I missed earlier is literally around this corner here. There it is. And this section here is really scary because there's like a lot of things that can hit you. So I'm doing like very careful like costume switches here just to make sure I don't get hit. And I switched costumes there so I can get iframes out of this cutscene because that enemy was trying to shoot me. And if I'm unlucky, I can lose my double jumper there, or Inky Blaster there, which is not good. We're going to go to 12-1 next, because there's a section of the level where we need Inky Blaster to basically defeat some enemies. Because if we don't use Inky Blaster, we basically have to go to each enemy individually and jump on their heads. If we use Inky Blaster, we can stand safely back and just spam projectiles at them until they're dead, and it's much quicker. Now, 12-1 and 12-2 are probably like the least favourite level for like a lot of the community. It's a very ominous sort of environment that they give us, especially with that backing music. But also, they're both very slow levels. They're long, and 12-1 especially, it's an auto-scroller. Almost. There are ways to skip the auto-scroller sections, of course. Like this one, we can get up on here early. Avoid that Balan hat, because that will take us into a quick time event, which you don't want to actually do. And then from this iron block here, we can get onto this platform, and then quickly Frost Fairy fly over here to skip another auto-scroller. Got the word there for a second. I did miss that fly there, but that's fine, because you can just do it again. And then we can fly over this wall here. But yeah, this is the point where it becomes an auto-scroller. This one's unskippable. Because now we're inside. Like, the start of the level was all outside, so there's ways just to fly around walls and, you know, get over the auto-scrollers. But this one, now that we're stuck inside, there's no way to clip through walls in this game at the moment. So, yeah, we're kind of limited. So you can see I'm literally just killing time. But once the platform reaches the end here, I'm going to switch to Inky Blaster, because this is where the game requires you to beat some enemies. And you'll see here how quickly Inky can take care of enemies. the main reason why, like, the projectile is fast and it locks on enemies. So you'll see here, like, I just immediately as this platform comes into the end, I've switched. I go 1, 2, miss that one shot, and 2, and then it's already done. It's an extremely powerful costume. Like, the strongest like, if I had to rank the strongest 5 costumes in the run, I would probably say it's Frost Fairy, Double Jumper, Inky Blaster, Air Cat, and Dusk Butterfly at the moment. It's because those costumes have the most utility in the run. But Inky Blaster is just very, very helpful. And saves us a lot of time. I have to be careful on these moving platforms, because if I touch the side of them, I will lose my jump with Frostberry and I will die. So it's something to be very, very cautious of when you're playing. That's why I took those moon platforms so slow, is because I didn't want to bump into the side of them and die. This bit's a little bit scary, especially when that enemy's there. These birds are definitely the worst enemy in the game. And I switched to Frostfairy here to cross this last gap. But yeah, right now the route is all involved around using Inky Blaster for all the levels that we require it. Now we're going to go to 11-2, which has the first mini boss in the entire run that we actually do. I mean, you'll probably work out why we do it as well from just watching the run. But yeah, so the start of the level is very sketchy because there's all these, if we walk into lava we lose our Frost Fairy, so I'm just taking these gaps very carefully. And I'm going to switch to Double Jumper to climb up this section here. This climb here can be a bit sketchy, it's always been a little bit sketchy, and there's enemies shooting at you the entire time. Suffice to say, I was very nervous during this part. I always get nervous during this part. Mainly because I've had an enemy hit me out of this mini boss cutscene here. And lose my costume without me being able to react to it. So, whilst I'm fighting this mini boss, I'm being very careful of these enemies. But yeah, Inky Blaster, very strong. I can just snipe the boss from a safe distance without having to even go into the lava there to fight it. I don't give up on those enemies there because they're not wanting to die. But yeah, now we're going to... Basically, the mini-boss frees the end level there for us. So that's why we fight it. Right now we haven't found a way to actually unlock this end level during the lava phase. Or a way to clip into the cage that's blocked up. So we have to fight the mini-boss still. Definitely something that's being actively looked into, though. Now we have 10-2. This is a very quick level, actually. We don't need Inky Blaster for it, but we're going to use it for 10 boss. Yeah, 10-2 is one of the quicker levels in the run as well. We can basically Frost Fairy to grab a statue just here. Very much worth grabbing there.
we can then jump off these stairs to get onto this painting here. Or this canvas, I should say. And then we can grab the statue here. And then we're going to head towards these stairs here. Because at the top of the stair is this mirror. And I'm now at the end of the level. And that's a mini boss, by the way, there. I just skipped it again. By the way, I should explain, if you can hear me sniffling, I do have a cold right now. There's a marathon I want to submit to, and I haven't really got that much time until the deadline is up for that one. So I'm just recording despite being sick. Now it's time for 10 boss. Which is probably one of the scarier bosses in the run. Probably not as scary as 9 boss, but it's up there. He's going to shoot these paint at us and then have a couple of paint cans there. Hitting the paint can with Inky Blaster just allows us to make the boss vulnerable. And now I have to be careful here. I need to fly into these paintings with Frost Fairy. But as you see, he pushes it forward there. So I have to be careful not to get hit by the boss. And I tried to do it with Inky Blaster here to get this hit. But it doesn't quite work for me. So next time I'm definitely going to use Frost Fairy to hit the boss there. Now you see where those platforms, those green parts sort of dissolved? Those are invisible platforms there, so I can still technically stand on them. But it's usually not best to gamble on it, just in case you incorrectly guessed it. But yeah, it's a very quick boss fight there. You just avoid the rabbits on that last hit. So now this is a very weird routing choice that we do here. But it will make sense in a moment why we do this. We're going to go to World 2 now and finish it off. Because you might remember that at the beginning of the run we did 2-2, but we never did 2-1. And the first reason why we do this is because Double Jumper and Frost Fairy absolutely demolish this level. And we can just about route it out of early game. So yeah, we can grab a quick one by jumping on that dolphin statue there. We can then jump up onto these platforms like so to grab the second one. Then we can switch to Frost Fairy and fly over this way to grab this statue here. And if we turn to the left here, that's the end of the level. But that's not the real reason why we actually did World 2 now. You're about to see why we did World 2 so late into the run. And there's also probably the reason why Inky Blaster deserves a spot in S tier. Because 2 boss is a very, very slow boss if you're doing this early game. There's a lot of waiting around and a lot of slow hits. But here, the projectiles hit the boss. And also this is the final level with Double Jumper, because we're now switching out for Jelly Drop, which is an offensive costume again, like Inky Blaster. And yeah, the boss is dead. We basically just get one statue from this boss in this route. But it's so fast, it's worth doing. Here's 12-2, and I believe this is the last level where we'll be needing Inky Blaster. But also, we only got 2 more bosses to fight now and 4 statues to obtain. So we're right at the end of the run now. Unfortunately, 12 boss and 11 boss, which are the final 2 bosses we need to fight, are very slow. So, despite that. And yeah, and 12. And 12-2 is a very slow level as well. So unfortunately, we've still got like a little bit of run left to go. About 13 minutes. I have to be careful with these shockwaves here.
This is actually quite a slow. It's quite a slow enemy pattern here. Got the enemy spawns are RNG. You can get varying different enemies depending on your RNG. And that one wasn't very fast. You can get some that just blow each other up, which is really quick. That one was just sort of spaced out enemies, quite a lot of them. This statue grab that I'm about to grab here is quite scary, to be honest. I don't usually... this is like the first run where I actually do it. Usually I just ignore it. Here's a simple hit the switches. The NPCs are making weird noises. Oh yeah, funny that. They put Balan in the trash. I find that one funny. And yeah, now we're on to the second time that we see Lance in this run. Reminder, he's the antagonist. And now we have to fight this mini-boss here. Okay, this mini-boss is quite easy. We just gotta literally wait for it to become vulnerable after it's stopped becoming electrified. And then jump into it. Whilst dodging the shockwave as well. It does run away from us, so we kind of have to like space ourselves away from it. Otherwise the phase goes on a lot longer than it needs to. Also, I'm trying to stay in the air here just so I don't get hit during the cutscene by that shockwave. And then we got an auto-scroller section here as we wait for this slow-moving platform. And I'm constantly switching costumes here to get these enemies here to not spot me. They won't notice me otherwise. And then here, around this point, I'm going to just jump off early with Frostberry. It's quite a risky strat. I don't like doing it, but it does save time, so I do it anyway. But yeah, I just need to mention now. Obviously, we picked up Jelly Jolt in 2 boss, but I don't really explain why. So 12 boss has a phase in the middle of the fight where basically his whole body becomes electrified and his weak spot becomes exposed. Unfortunately, we can't hit the boss whilst he's electrified unless we have Jelly Jolt, which is immune to that electrification that it has. I don't even know if electrification is a word, but I'm going to use it. Here I have to suck up a bomb with the vacuum blaster. And then, basically when he lowers his head like so, we can throw a bomb into its mouth to expose its weak spot. And now we'll see how we're going to use Jelly Jolt here. Jelly Jolt is also really useful for the final boss, so we want to keep it around for that as well. But yeah. That's basically what we do. That's the only costume that can actually hit that phase. Before the late 2-1 route, we did used to go back into the wardrobe, which is how we get costumes that we discard back to then pick up Jelly Jolt again, which was quite slow. So there's no benefit of doing 2-1 late. It's the fact that we get to route Jelly Jolt when we need it. And then we just repeat the first phase again with sucking up a bomb, throwing it at the boss, to then kill it. It's a very quick, well, actually I say it's a very quick boss fight. It's very simple, it's slow.
Considering how the previous boss took 30 seconds, I can't say it's a fast boss fight. Uh, 11-1 is up next, and this is a very, very short level. One of the shortest in the run. So, fun fact about this world, it's actually set in night, so if you use Dust Butterfly, you can actually fly around as if it was free to with the nighttime switches on. Furthermore, you'll see the end of the levels right there. You can actually fly right to the end of the level with Dust Butterfly, but getting Dust Butterfly here is actually slow, so we don't do it. Instead, what we do is we fly down here with Frost Fairy, fly up here onto this platform, and then we fly to this platform here to then grab this statue, and then we land onto this pipe, which can be a bit sussy, but we got it, and then fly to the end level like that. Perfect. And now we've got 11 boss. And we're going to use a lot of the iframes here because there's a lot of attacks here that are actually quite hard to dodge. So we're just going to keep switching costumes just so we don't have to worry about that. We can just cheese it. First of all, we're going to switch out our vacuum blaster because it's pretty much useless now. For the water blaster instead. As you can see, these switching of costumes here is just making me immune to the fire here. But yeah, Water Blaster is used here because these pipes here are going to shoot out lava. And yeah, basically we've got to hit all 4 pipes to expose the boss's weak spot. And those shots can lock on to other pipes, so you have to be really angle it precisely to get the 4 quick hits. Here we can do a quick hit. When the boss starts roaring, I'm going to start floating with Frost Fairy and pirouetting like so to get another very quick hit. And then we're just going to repeat the fire phase that he just did again and the lava phase to quickly kill the boss. Unfortunately, there's no quick wave hit. There's no way of hitting the boss when he's shooting fire at you because that armor on his head. So we're kind of like waiting this out, so then we can do the lava phase again. And I'm so surprised that last hit actually connected. Definitely something I need to look into more. But either way, we now have 110 statues. And we fought all 12 bosses. So now we get to go on to the final boss. And there's 2 phases, by the way, so don't think you're getting away from the run that quickly when we still got to fight the one boss and then one straight after. The beginning of the boss fight here will let you pick a costume to equip, or 3 costumes to equip. And these costumes are all good enough to fight the boss, so we'll use them. So for the first hit of this boss, actually I gotta get through these cutscenes first. Getting ahead of myself. Basically he'll create clones of himself. And I'm going to use Frost Fairy here, because Frost Fairy is probably the least important costume in this fight. Basically I'll jump into the correct clone, which is the one that's slightly brighter than the others. He's basically going to shoot a barrage of attacks at us. And I'm intentionally going to get hit here and lose Frost Fairy. And as I said, this is intentional. And I'll explain why later. Right now it's not important. Then here I'm going to wait for this tentacle to spawn. I'm going to charge a shot with my water blaster. And then when that comes down, I'm just going to smash him with the water to get the second hit. He's going to do the barrage again here. And I'm going to do some costume switches for the first 2 barrages. Because he's going to do 3 hours. And I'm going to get hit here. And again, this is intentional. And I have to be careful here, obviously, because I don't... You can't hit bosses without a costume. So if I lost Jelly Drop here, I'd be screwed. But luckily I hit it. And this is actually a very beneficial position. Because now we're into the final boss. And the first thing you need to do is die by basically losing all your costumes and getting hit as a standard Emma Cole here. But what I can do is I can literally just fall off the level twice to activate that. So I took here on purpose to speed up this phase of the boss fight. Because otherwise I would have to have fallen off the level 2 twice more before this cutscene plays. So for the first phase, I'm just going to let him slam down on the ground, dodge the shockwave, and then fly into his eye like so. And yeah, basically we get given 3 costumes every phase for this fight. So we're going to use Water Blaster for this one. Unfortunately, I have difficulty here quite hitting this one. This one can be weird. I get on the 3rd hit though, that's fine. This is Invisible Man, by the way. He doesn't do anything. He's a great costume. You turn invisible, but there's no benefits to being invisible. And then the final phase. I'm going to stand here just to bait an attack over this way. And then I'm just going to fly into his eye with Frost Fairy.
Now time is coming up. But first we got to dodge some lasers. And to dodge these lasers, I'm just going to stand here and spin. And switch costumes non-stop. Because even final death lasers can't hit you whilst you're switching costumes. And now I'm standing well back here. Because if I get underneath the boss here as he falls down, I will get crushed. And I'll have to fight both this fight and the one prior to that again. And time ends when I hit this core here, so that's time.
And that is Balan Wonderworld.
That new route is OP.
Oh yeah,
Because-
and I talk here because, yeah, so I got like world record there, and I was like, okay, I guess let's talk about that. But yeah, this is Balan Wonderworld, 80%. It's a So you probably know what Balan Wonderworld is already because, it was voted the worst game of 2021. Despite that, I think this is a very fun speed run. Outside of, casually it's not very fun, but as a speed run, I do have a lot of fun with this. I do really enjoy routing the game, and oh, there's my wallpaper. Let's switch that back. But yeah, I do really enjoy routing this speedrun, and yeah, and finding the tricks is really fun as well. A lot of the flaws of the games, like the game being slow, doesn't really bother me in the speedrun because the levels are very condensed, and therefore you don't really notice the slow speed because you're doing a lot in that time anyway, that the speed doesn't really become a problem for me. Obviously the level design's pretty busted, which is good for me because it means I can find quick ways of beating levels. Everything has collision, which is really cool because it means like a lot of skips that shouldn't be possible are possible. And yeah, the game isn't very restrictive either. Like some speedruns that I know, basically if you see something in the distance and you think you can jump to it, you probably can. Yeah, it's great. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video and enjoyed listening to me ramble on as this run went on. Um, yeah, and yeah, if you're on like a marathon committee team, picking what run to consider for your marathon, consider Balan Wonderworld. It's a funny game because obviously like it's a terrible game. The commentary, we can have fun, make fun of the game for being bad during the commentary, but we can also like it's also quite a fun speed run. So there's merits to it, and it's quite fun to. My chat enjoyed me playing it at least. So yeah, much more than Kirby, I should say that. All right, thanks for watching, guys. Um, yeah, see you.